In this section of Unit 3, I'll discuss visual media. What makes it different and sometimes more beneficial than print? And also, how do you turn your information into a visual medium? Printed materials tell the audience about a product or service or procedure by describing a situation through words. Because every literate person is familiar with print, there is virtually no learning curve to using the material. Even materials printed online require very little instruction on use. You don't need to worry about plugging in the right connections or accessing the correct input to see the material. You usually don't need any special equipment for print. Here's a training manual. Read it. With video, your audience is going to need some specific device that will play the video. It could be that you need a DVD player and projector to show a motivational video at a company-wide meeting. Generally, there are no formatting issues with print, especially if we're going to be talking about actual printed paper. Online documents may require specific software versions, but still tend to encounter less issues than visual media. Visual media often runs into issues. A DVD might play on one machine, but not on another. Maybe you need Windows Media Player on your computer because the online video won't run on QuickTime. Print materials can easily be reviewed again and again. Didn't get it the first time? Reread it. Need to refer back to the manual while you're working on a task? No problem. Print serves as a great reference. Video is more difficult to use as a reference, especially if the video isn't broken down into accessible sections. Lastly, print may not require as many people to produce it. Maybe your organization has one skilled writer who can turn out a great document and have it published. Video often takes more than one person to produce it. Okay, so now that I've made print seem like it's the best medium in the world, let's consider why you would choose a visual medium like video. The main advantage that video has over print is that you can show your audience rather than just tell them. Think of all the advantages this leads to. For instance, showing rather than telling could save time and frustration. For example, say you have a training video that shows the steps rather than describing what you have to do. Now, technical writers spend a lot of time describing the steps as simply as they can. However, trying to be simple and get a point across isn't always possible. Think of any time you've tried to put together a child's toy that was manufactured in China. I know at my house, as I think I told you before, my husband is a technical writer, and whenever we get out one of those manuals, he goes into this long tirade on how this could have been written better, especially if they have a technical writer that is translating it into a different language. So, printed directions sometimes don't do the trick for you. Sometimes it's easier to show someone and have them grasp where all the parts are immediately than try to describe where all those parts are and what you have to do with the parts. Another advantage is that sound and pictures can easily create a feeling. An example to give you is a motivational video. Motivational videos are often like mini movies. Add inspirational music and a character with a challenge, and you have the audience rooting for that character. Find a way to incorporate the training scene from Rocky into your message, and you probably have created more energy with your audience than you would have if you had one of those inspirational posters. Okay, I'll be honest with you. Someone's working on a project down the hall, and I have listened to Eye of the Tiger over and over for the last hour, so that's why Rocky popped into my head. Another advantage for video is that video can be more personal. Think of an informational video where the company is talking about changes in its organizational structure. It's going to seem more genuine if the company president is speaking to the audience rather than just issuing a memo. Here you get to see the president's facial expressions, hear the tone in the president's voice. Those things are hard to convey in print. In print, the president is a faceless title. With video, the president is an actual person. Lastly, visuals often take less effort on the audience's part to absorb. It's often easier to watch something than to read about something. So if you have a public message you want to get out there, unless they are specifically looking for that message, they're not going to pay attention to something they need to read. Your visual has to be engaging, and it has to take less effort for the public to get this information. Now, there are many different ways to communicate your message using a visual medium. The key for all of them is to show more than you tell. Let your pictures speak for you as much as you can. The human brain can process visual images much faster than it can text, so use that to your advantage. As for how you present your material, you have a number of different options. You can combine these concepts, possibly dividing your project into different segments. However, keep in mind that your audience essentially has only one shot at seeing the message. While they may be able to rewind, it's less likely that they will. Keep the material simple so they get the message the first time through. One way to use visuals is to role play. You could create a mini movie where the audience learns and/or becomes attached to a specific character. It could help the audience become more interested and attached to the message. You can make the scenes humorous or serious. It depends on your message and your audience. Another way is to have an on-camera host. This person usually speaks directly to the audience and guides them through the video, perhaps through a training process. Another way to create a video is to have a voiceover with B-roll. It's beauty shots. I'll get into that more later. But essentially, you're using a narrator that the audience never sees. With the voiceover, you could give the audience information or instructions while they look at a scenario being discussed, or possibly graphics or screenshots that illustrate your point. Lastly, you can use a combination of all these. Perhaps there's a scene with actors who encounter a problem. How can they solve it? Well, go to the on-camera host to take you through the solution. Maybe the on-camera host is actually a way to transition to screenshots that show how to use a particular computer program, and there's a voiceover explaining the process while we go through shots of the computer program. So keep in mind that visual media are great for showing your audience your message. Let your visuals speak for you as much as possible. However, don't get so caught up in the entertainment factor that you forget your point. When choosing what type of concept to use, consider your audience. Which approach would best speak to them?